Alright, so today we're talking about congruent figures. Our goals are to identify two figures if they are congruent, and how to identify what the corresponding parts are. And we'll talk about that as we go through. So congruent figures have the same shape and size. Geometric figures remain congruent with rigid transformations. In other words, like they move, or they flip over, or they rotate. Okay, the symbol for congruent is an equal sign with a squiggly line on top. That's the similar symbol. Okay, and you'll learn about similar figures next year. So, two shapes or polygons are congruent if and only if their corresponding parts are also congruent. So, corresponding parts of congruent polygons are congruent. For example, so here's two ones. So, we're saying these two are congruent. It says so right here. So congruent segments. Now what's interesting is when they write the congruency statement, A, B, C, D is congruent to E, F, G, H, you'll notice A and E are the same angle. And B and F are the same angle. So the congruent segments are going to be like AB is congruent to EF, and we can also say that BC is congruent to FG. And all of these should have like little lines over them to signify segments. Okay, and then there's two more. There's also CD is congruent to GH. So we've got these parts, to these parts. Now we've got to do the last one. So it'll be AD and HE. Or we'll actually do it correctly. We'll do DA is congruent to EH. Alright? So then congruent angles work the same way. We can say that angle A is congruent to angle E. Notice they're in the same spot in the congruency sentence. Okay, we can also say that angle B is congruent to angle F, which again you can see in the congruency statement. Okay, so these are corresponding parts. We can also say that angle C is congruent to angle G, right here in the congruency statement. And we can say that angle D is congruent to angle H, which again you can see in the congruency statement. Alright, so we're going to talk about a couple of things that you should have learned at least last year, maybe the year before. So vertical angles are opposite angles of intersecting lines. In other words, this side and this side, those are vertical angles. They kind of make a V with each other, a V and an upside down V. Are congruent. Okay, so vertical angles are congruent. Then supplementary angles are any two angles that add to a straight line. I remember that S means straight line, and it's 180 degrees. Complementary angles are any two angles, doesn't matter if they're next to each other or not, that add together to equal a corner. So this is straight line. And this is corner. And corners are 90 degrees. At least you hope they are, because if they're not, it causes problems. Okay, now we have to talk about parallel lines and transversals and all of this stuff. Okay, transversals are a line intersecting two or more lines in a plane at different points. The lines don't have to be parallel. So, you learned a lot of properties about when they are parallel, but it's just any line that cuts through two other lines. Okay, so this is a transversal. This is the transversal. Okay, and this is the transversal. Now, if they are parallel, that means we can make a couple statements. We already know angle 1 and angle 3 are congruent because they are vertical angles. But we can also say those are also congruent to angle 5 and angle 7. There's a bunch of different properties. So, angle 1 and angle 5, these are called corresponding angles. Okay, and they are congruent when they are parallel. We can say the same, and then we can say some other things. So we can say angle 3 and angle 5 are congruent because they are alternate, meaning opposite sides of the transversal, interior angles. Okay, we can also say that angle 1 and angle 7 are congruent because these are alternate, opposite sides of the transversal, exterior, because they're outside the parallel lines, angles. Alternate means opposite sides of the transversal, interior means inside the parallel lines, exterior means outside. So this is interior, and these are exterior. All right? Okay, and then there's one more angle relationship we need to talk about, and it's angle 5 and angle 4. These are called same side. Let me switch pens here. So angle 4 and angle 5 are same side, or they could be called consecutive, interior angles. Same side meaning on the same side of the transversal, interior meaning between the parallel lines. And all the other angle pairs are congruent. These ones just equal 180 degrees. Okay? All right. So corresponding each pair, the corresponding angles are congruent. And I want you to list the angle pair. So I already gave you one above. So angle 1 is going to be congruent to angle 5. I want you to find the other 4. Alternate interior angles means opposite side of the transversal, but in between the parallel lines, right? And these are also congruent. And I already gave you an example of one. We had example of angle 3 is congruent to angle 5. So I want you to find the other one. Okay? On these ones, consecutive interior angles, this is also known as same side interior angles. They are not congruent, they are supplementary. This means they add to 180 degrees. Okay? And I gave you an example of one, so I know that angle 4 plus angle 5 is going to equal 180. I want you to list the other one. Then alternate exterior angles, we talked about this one. This would be like angle 1 and angle 7, and these are congruent. So angle 1 is congruent to angle 7. Okay, find the other one. Okay, from here, I want you to be able to look at this. It gives you one angle. I want you to list all the other angle measurements, so A through G, and list how you know them. So are they vertical angles? Are they corresponding angles? Are they supplementary angles? Are they in alternate interior angles? Like, list the reasons why you know. Okay? And then once you're done with that, you just have to write a recap and you are done for today.